Okay, so I put this video together to get you guys familiar with the city of Waterdeep, which is the area this adventure is going to be taking place in the city. And um, some of your characters might have already been here for a while. Some of you might have grown up here. Some of you might just be arriving here, but that's up to you. I'm gonna actually need you to let me know as soon as you can what if your character grew up here or if you just got here or how long you've been here. It could be any time in between that or whatever. So this is probably what you'll know of the city unless you just got here. If you just got here, then you don't if you don't watch the if you just got here, I recommend not watching this video, and then maybe like everything would be a surprise to you, and that would be kind of cool to role play it that way. But I know like Belsevere, I believe you're playing Belsevere, the prequel for Belsevere. He would probably, yeah, he grew up here, so he would know all this. So you probably want to watch this. All right, so we're gonna start off with Waterdeep is a welcoming city, and you have nothing to fear from the guardians of it unless you lead a rampaging army of orcs, a horde of gnolls, or similar. They don't even require a toll to be paid, but beware of any city guard who demands a toll, and report the incident to a magister of Waterdeep at your earliest convenience. If you travel overland in a small party or alone, you aren't required to register with a magister unless your stay extends beyond a 10-day. At that point, you must register with a magister either at the harbor, the gates, or the city courts. Discovery of your failure to do so can result in a fine or forced labor. Of course, registration subjects you to monthly taxation. But as an old acquaintance from the Dales once told me, none of these rules apply to the city's least used gate, the West Gate. This smaller gate opens onto the mud flats, a mucky beach used by clam diggers, shore fishers, and those brave enough to bathe in the cold waves. Those who make a living through fishing with nets or traps also use this gate, keeping their small boats on the beach to avoid docking fees. Locals register with the guard as they exit and as they enter. No magister is stationed at this gate, but no new arrivals to Waterdeep are accepted here. If you approach by air, expect a vigorous pursuit by and confrontation with the Griffin cavalry. Only specially licensed individuals and mounts can fly over Waterdeep. It is best to land well outside the city and approach on foot. Waterdeep is by and large the most civilized city on the Sword Coast, yet civilized doesn't mean safe, nor does it mean easy to navigate. Many day-to-day elements of life in Waterdeep that residents take for granted are, to new arrivals, a bevy of wonders and dangers not seen in any other settlement within 1,000 miles. This is what you need to know to survive in Waterdeep. Waterdeep is no village led by hidebound hierarchs or petty fiefdom ruled by the whim of a warlord. It is a city of laws molded by Tyr's spirit of justice. As a rule, you can trust members of the City Watch to do their duty diligently, and you can expect that the city's magisters will be fair. If you have cause to come before the masked lords or the open lord herself, rest assured that if your cause be just, justice will be done. If, however, you find yourself in the wrong, know that though it might take time to weigh that wrong on Tyr's scales, his hammer will fall, and it will be wielded by Waterdeep with a vengeance. Unlike in less civilized settlements, punishment for crimes in Waterdeep isn't typically used as public entertainment. Scheduled executions occur behind the high walls of Castle Waterdeep, and floggings are carried out in the watch post nearest to sentencing. The watch makes every effort to take individuals into custody quietly so as not to disrupt other citizens. Those bystanders generally return the favor by giving altercations between criminals and the watch a wide berth. Waterdeep has a complex library of law and customs set by precedent, the main body of which can be read in the Code Legal. This document is available in multiple languages at the Palace of Waterdeep and in the common tongue, provided on request by the magisters at the gates and in the harbor. Be aware that the Code Legal provides only an outline of typical sentences for various offenses, and magisters have broad discretion when meting out justice as they see fit. Any masked lord can overturn a magistrate's ruling, but there's rarely a masked lord around when you need one. Individuals accustomed to the rough and tumble life in much of the north are often surprised by the fact that Waterdavians go about unarmed and unarmored. Yet Waterdeep doesn't have any law that forbids carrying weapons or armor. Instead, it has a culture of civility that makes such behavior unnecessary. Dueling has been illegal for a long time in Waterdeep as any sort or act involving assault. Individuals caught brawling by the watch will be arrested and judged regardless of who started the fracas or why. The tavern brawls that typically break out under the influence of too much drink will often be overlooked by the watch as long as the proprietor doesn't seek payment for damages and no one is significantly injured. Sport fighting such as boxing or wrestling is legal only if it occurs in a location registered within the city for that purpose. Additionally, any blade more than 1 foot in length is subject to an extra tax whenever it is sold, which helps to explain why Waterdavians prefer to carry knives and knuckle dusters for self-defense. Businesses and individuals do employ armed guards, but except for nobles or foreign envoys, few people travel about the city with such protection. As such, the sight of armed and armored individuals walking the streets who aren't in the livery of the city or one of its noble houses inspires caution in most Waterdavians. Folk assume that you wouldn't bother lugging around such equipment unless you either intend violence or expect that it might soon be visited upon you. And then we have the City Watch. The first soldiers you see in service to the city will be the members of the City Guard who patrol the roads leading to Waterdeep. Watch the walls, guard civic structures, and protect magisters. Waterdeep's streets, however, are policed by an altogether different force, the City Watch. The similarity of their names often confuses newcomers, so I offer this handy mnemonic. The guard guards the walls while the watch watches all. You can recognize any member of the City Watch by the uniform, a green and goldenrod doublet, and a tall steel helmet. Each typically carries a long truncheon, a dagger, and a buckler. Because most citizens in Waterdeep don't bear weapons, these tools prove a more than ample deterrent to criminal activity. Members of the Watch typically don't carry crossbows or other weapons to attack at range, but running from the Watch, though it may be a time-honored tradition for local miscreants, rarely works out for newcomers to the city. I guarantee that all members of the Watch know the streets they patrol, and that area's residents better than you do, even if they stay in Waterdeep for 10 seasons. The City Watch has watch posts throughout the city. These stations are often off the main thoroughfares, tucked away in small courtyards or at the cross streets. A watch post can be recognized by the green and gold lantern outside it, lit even during the day with a continual flame spell. A watch post serves as an organizational headquarters and armory. Anyone who wishes to report a crime may do so at a watch post in the event a watch constable can't be found elsewhere. A watch post typically contains a few holding cells where people arrested for crimes can be detained until they're marched to a courthouse jail before standing trial. City Watch members follow a strict code of conduct, which makes them one of the most trusted police forces aside from Paladin-patrolled Ethelgerd. As long as you don't engage in unlawful behavior, you can expect to be left untroubled by the Watch. Members of the City Watch employ a sort of slang in dealing with the public. As a visitor, it behooves you to know what they mean. What befalls means someone tell me what's going on here. Hold means don't move a muscle. Down arms means drop your weapons. Talk truth means answer me or tell the whole story. Robes references the black robes. In other words, one of the magisters. Do we need robes here, or something similar should be taken as a threat? Then you have the Watchful Order of Magists and Protectors. Expect to be questioned at the gate or when you register with a Magister regarding your ability to cast arcane magic. Wizards, sorcerers, and other arcane spellcasters who intend to stay in Waterdeep for any length of time are required to register with the city and will be strongly encouraged to join the Watchful Order of Magists and Protectors, headed by the Blackstaff. Members of the Watchful Order are expected to render service to the city when called upon, acting as temporary members of the City Watch or City Guard. Their expertise often helps investigators determine whether magic was used to commit a crime in the city. Members can also expect to be tapped for assistance during and after fires, natural events that cause multiple casualties, or other non-magical disasters. Members of the Watchful Order form a more or less sociable association in the city, working together to keep an eye on any spellcasters who opt not to join their guild. Any havoc caused by a spellcaster in Waterdeep risks drawing the wrath of the Lords of Waterdeep, so it behooves the Watchful Order to watch all its members. Coinage. As should be expected of any city of standing, Waterdeep mints its own coins. All taxes, fines, and guild fees must be paid either in Waterdavian coin or the currency of any member settlement of the Lord's Alliance. Though no law requires you to pay for goods or services in Waterdavian coin, the drudgery of weighing foreign currency and checking its purity prompts many retailers and operators of swift exchange businesses, including drays and hire coaches, not to accept anything but coins minted in Waterdeep. Though you can train your coinage for Waterdeep currency with anyone willing to do so, the exchangers at the Palace of Waterdeep make exchanges with no associated fee. The queue there can be quite long, necessitating that you make an appointment, often a day or more in advance. For a swifter transaction, I recommend any member of the Guild of Trusted Pewterers and Casters, or the Jewelers Guild. Both have the most reliable scales and abide by guild-wide rates of exchange. Be sure to exchange tells and harbor moons before leaving the city, as their value greatly diminishes elsewhere. Taxes and fees. As established in the first year of the reign of the previous Open Lord Dagelt Neverember, Waterdeep collects a monthly tax from all who live within its official wards. The tax is 1 shard per person above the age of 10 years and is collected door to door by patrols of the city guard on the last day of each month. Individuals who so desire can pay a single dragon in tax and receive a writ exempting them for 12 months, but the writ must be produced every month when the guard calls or a new payment is required. If the guard knocks at a door and receives no answer, a notice of lien with an estimation of tax is affixed to the door. The debt must be dealt with before the next month ends, with payment to be made to any magister. Those who have no fixed residence can still be taxed if they are confronted in any building, be it at an inn or an outhouse. So if you're out and around on the last day of the month, you'll no doubt experience taxing traffic as the streets become clogged with people trying to avoid the collectors. Waterdeep also raises revenue by charging other fees. So here we have the various coins of Waterdeep. We have the nib, which is a copper coin about the size of a thumbnail. We have the shard, which is a silver coin slightly smaller than the nib. We have the tal, Taol. It's a brass coin about 2 inches square with a hole large enough for a nib to fit in it. 1 tal equals 200 nibs. We have the dragon, which is the gold coin, half again as large as a nib. 1 dragon equals 100 nibs. And so then we have the sun, which is a platinum coin twice as large as a nib. And we have the harbor moon, which is a platinum crescent inset with electrum about 3 inches long with a hole large enough for a nib to fit in it. 1 harbor moon equals 5,000 nibs. So that'll be, you'll get used to the currency after a while, I'm sure. That'll be how they deal with their coin. Street signs in Waterdeep. Thanks to the Scriveners, Scribes, and Clerks Guild, Waterdeep has a remarkable custom of labeling its streets, and even many of its alleyways and courts. The method of identification varies by ward and neighborhood, including brass plates, carvings in stone, and stencil-painted wooden signs. But street names are typically displayed on the corners of buildings at intersections, roughly a dozen feet above the ground. The name of the road you travel on will be on the wall nearest, while the name of the crossing road will be around the corner. Simply ingenious. Landmarks. Proud Mount Waterdeep provides a useful landmark for general orientation. It stands stark across the skyline to the west, its far slopes dropping right into the sea. A spur of the mountain juts inland, and atop the easternmost point of this spur stands Castle Waterdeep. If you can see these landmarks, it's relatively easy to orient yourself. The mountain peak looms over the southern third of the city near the port in the south. The city of the dead lies opposite the northern ridge of Mount Waterdeep, which descends down to the Field of Triumph, the city's great coliseum. Natives of the City of Splendors are notoriously slow to take offense. A Waterdavian plainly states their feelings as a warning, so that one is apt to hear, "I don't find that amusing, friend," said pleasantly before real anger is shown. Some visitors misinterpret such behavior as cowardice or ignorance. He was too stupid to realize I insulted him. For those who act on such misjudgments, however, surprise and regret are the usual results. Most Waterdavians are also slow to take fright unless facing magic or monsters. A swaggering warrior threatening them is quite likely to be stared at calmly or even sneered at. The only mortals that Waterdavians fear are a few unstable wizards and the lords. Durnan often says to those that are surprised by the nonchalance of the yawning portal's regulars concerning the open entrance to Undermountain in their midst, and only when they've incurred the wrath of said persons themselves. Traffic wardens. During particularly heavy traffic and at congested areas such as the Great Oval Road around the market, you might see a member of the City Watch serving as a traffic warden. Traffic wardens signal with small blue hand flags for traffic to proceed and with yellow flags for traffic to hold. A traffic warden can often be heard blowing a whistle. When you hear it, look to the warden to see if you are being signaled. Failure to take care might result not only in accident but also arrest. And then the different modes of transportation, there are these things called drays, which are towering vehicles that can hold... it's kind of like... It's almost like your city bus in a way. So they can hold quite a few people. And it costs about typically 2 to 4 nibs to get a seat. And there's a fare taker that stands at the back of the vehicle. Most drays run on the main north-south boulevards, but some circle the market, and a few run along the smaller east-west roads in rough areas. Be warned that when the demand for drays is high during rain or snow, or to get to or from an event at the Field of Triumph, conditions become crowded and perfect for pickpockets. Alright, so then you have hire coaches. If you desire to travel in relative comfort and be the master of your destination, simply give a spirited wave and shout to any hire coach driver who has no passengers. Each of these handsome two-wheeled black coaches comfortably seats 2 travelers, perhaps 4 if you're quite slim and very well acquainted, who ride facing the road ahead. Okay. The fare must be agreed upon and paid before the journey, but only rarely will the cost exceed a half dozen shards. Carriages. The well-to-do, or those who want to ride in luxury during a day out, can hire a full carriage, many of which are finely outfitted as those owned by the nobility. Up to 8 can take such a ride in silk and comfort. Prices and services vary, but generally you agree to rent a carriage, the services of the driver, and any attendant servants or guards for a full day. Travel during winter time. The folk of Waterdeep often remain indoors in the colder months, particularly when it rains or snows. The flow of trade and travelers into the city slows to a trickle during winter, and as a result, traffic diminishes and drays and hire coaches become more scarce. Fortunately, the Fellowship of Carters and Coachmen works with the Wheelwrights Guild and the Wagon Makers and Coach Builders Guild to convert the drays and hire coaches that do operate into sledges, so that some are available in the worst weather. Now, very important is the nobility of Waterdeep and how you're expected to compose yourself around them. While you might encounter dwarf diplomats from Gauntgrim, satraps, or duchesses of Tether, or thanes of the Northlanders in Waterdeep, the nobles you really need to know about are the city's own. 78 noble family lines are found here. many of which can trace their lineage back to the city's founding. Books have been written about individual families, histories of their accomplishments, and how they fit into the webs of wealth and patronage that govern nobles' activities. Spotting a noble. Nobility in Waterdeep are granted the right to bear arms. In the legal code of the city, that this means not merely the ability to carry a weapon, but the right to retain up to 70 equipped soldiers. These soldiers always wear house's colors and a house's arms of grace, a heraldic device often borne on a shield, worn as a cloak pin or affixed to a helmet. Others throughout the city, even foreign dignitaries, are permitted to retain only up to 16 armed warriors, and laws against impersonating those in the employ of the nobility mean that other mercenaries and bodyguards most often dress plainly, so as not to be mistaken for the retinue of a noble. So your first clue that you might be in the company of a noble is the sight of a large number of armed and uniformed soldiers. Many nobles, particularly younger ones seeking entertainment, travel without an entourage of guards or only in the company of other nobles. In this case, you'll know you're in the presence of nobility because of the deference others give them. Follow suit and you should be fine. Above all, be polite. Always address a known noble as lord or lady. A short bow or a nod of the head to acknowledge a noble upon each meeting and parting is customary. You should also be aware of acting in an overly familiar, boastful, or disrespectful way when in the presence of any noble. This sort of behavior isn't a crime, and laws against dueling prevent a noble from initiating a direct armed confrontation. The noble families of Waterdeep have immense power in the city, often in unexpected quarters. Many have influence in nations as distant as Calamshan and Cormyr. Be assured that any slighting of a noble will not be forgotten or easily forgiven. If you're not certain whether someone is a noble, address the gentleman as Sir or the gentlewoman as good woman. Neither will give offense, and generally a noble will politely correct you as to their actual title. They are wondrous people. Whenever you find yourself in this bustling city, you're likely to spot a wonderful variety of folk. You hear words and languages utterly foreign to you, and you smell dishes both delectable and strange. Waterdeep is the ultimate city of such delights, and before long the alien thing becomes familiar to you, and the stranger becomes your friend. The people of Waterdeep are among the greatest of its splendors. Fashion, comportment, love, these things are practiced with an art and a zest in the city uncommon elsewhere. Visit a feast hall or festival and see for yourself. And don't miss the cross-dressing performers who regale audiences with humor and song. Fabulous. That word doesn't begin to describe it, especially when they enhance the merriment with magic. The city is also a haven for those who define for themselves what it means to be a man or a woman, those who transcend gender as the gods do, and those who redefine entirely who they are. What confidence! I never tire of witnessing it. I have seen folk in Waterdeep whose lives are more magical than the marvels possible with spells. Nobles in Waterdeep are patrons of and investors in all manner of businesses in the city and abroad, as well as many expressions of the arts. They spend coin to fund celebrations, contests at the Field of Triumph, upkeep at the city's temples and shrines, civic projects, guild events, and charitable actions such as burial of the unknown dead. Their motives are manifold, but their actions, no matter their reason, earn them loyalty and high regard from those who benefit from their benevolence. Seeking patronage from a noble without having been introduced to that person is considered an insult, so you must first befriend someone in a noble's employ or circle of influence. Doing so is no guarantee of ultimate success. Much time and coin can be wasted trying to curry favor with an acquaintance of a noble who turns out to be unscrupulous or of little help for some other reason. My advice is to do something deserving of attention. Whether your vocation and someone from the noble families of Waterdeep will eventually show an interest. Know a noble's business. In the words of that quarrelsome acquaintance of mine from the Dales, before you strut your stuff in the chicken's preening circle, get to know the other cocks first. This colorful analogy applies well to the affairs of nobility, because when you have interaction with a noble, You are at the same time dealing with one's entire family, as well as a network of business associates and allies. That situation can put you in a troublesome spot if you are unaware of the noble's connections. And then we come to guilds and guild law. Now, Waterdeep is like a city of guilds. Almost everything has a guild in Waterdeep. So a lot of things that you might want to do might include getting the service of a guild or contracting a guild. No aspect of life in Waterdeep goes untouched by at least one of its more than 40 guilds. Virtually every profession has an associated guild, and is hardly a citizen of the city who doesn't belong to one or more guilds or doesn't work for someone who does. As a visitor to Waterdeep, you need to know this lest you run afoul of guild law. Guild law isn't technically in the legal code of Waterdeep, but guilds are mentioned in the oldest surviving legal documents. The rules of guild law are respected by wise city folk. Guilds take their laws seriously, as do members of the City Watch and the Magisters. If you flout a guild's traditions, you can expect not only public scorn, but also a visit from enforcers of the law. In addition, many guilds have their own codes of accusation, trial, and punishment, such as a member of the Baker's Guild who sells baked bread in the wrong shape will be drenched with water and coated in his own flour. Heckling a member of the Jester's Guild will result in the offending party being jeered at in public by no less than 4 guild members for a period of 4 days. Any ship that unloads its cargo without due observance or aid by the Guild of Watermen shall have its cargo seized or thrown into the harbor. Many guilds have codes that entwine each other, complicating matters even more for the outsider. In Neverwinter, if you want to construct a building, you simply purchase the land and hire workers to build it. In Waterdeep, the Surveyor's Map and Chartmakers Guild must first be consulted upon designation of the plat, then brought in to draw or approve the construction plan. The Cellarers and Plumbers Guild must then clear and prepare the site, only after which you are able to hire members of the Carpenters, Roofers, and Plasterers Guild to erect the structure. Moreover, the work will not be complete until members of the Guild of Fine Carvers and the Guild of Stone Cutters, Masons, Potters, and Tile Makers design and craft any decorative elements of wood, stone, or ceramics, and after the most careful order of skilled smiths and metal forgers have manufactured and installed any door hinges. If the building is to be connected to the sewers or a city water supply, the Cellarers and Plumbers Guild must be called upon again to do that work. Want glazed windows installed? For that, you need to hire members of the Guild of Glassblowers, Glaziers, and Spectacle Makers. If you do business in the city as anything other than a purchaser of goods and services, I strongly advise you seek out a local solicitor and pay to be guided through this process. No guild of solicitors exists, so be sure your choice comes highly recommended by individuals you can trust. To learn the peculiarities of any guild's rules, consult someone on duty at the guild headquarters or ask a senior guild member. All that said, working at a guild-related profession without being a member of that guild isn't illegal. Guild members have no lawful recourse to interfere in the business of someone who chooses to not join the organization. But if you practice a trade or operate a business without becoming a member of that appropriate guild, word spreads and you'll find that your coin isn't good for purchasing the goods or services of anyone who is a guild member, since that group includes virtually everyone who sells the necessities of life or offers shelter for a fee. The benefits of joining a guild swiftly become apparent to those who procrastinate in this regard. The Wards of Waterdeep. Newcomers to the city of Waterdeep are often confused by the importance that Waterdavians give to wards. In other cities such as Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter, districts are bounded by rivers and walls. But in Waterdeep, one can traverse from ward to ward by crossing a street, a fact that offers the drivers of hire coaches some amusement when an ignorant tourist requests a ride to an adjacent ward. Each ward has its own history, legends, and traditions, based around who lived there in the past, famous or infamous events, and the uncanny things that continue to occur. The Sea Ward stands proud on the high ground above Mount Waterdeep's sunset shadow. The rich and the powerful are those who wish you to think such of them and can afford the rent reside or run their businesses here. When the warlords and pirates of early Waterdeep gained enough gold, they built fortresses on what used to be the fields of grass tussled by sea wind. You can still see the remains of some of those old castles incorporated into the palatial homes of the noble families that dwell in the seaward. For the best all-around view of the glittering homes enshrouded by garden walls, go to where Diamond Street and Delzarn Street cross nigh to Mistress House of Wonder and simply spin in a circle. The North Ward. Nobles of plenty live in the North Ward, but the character of this ward is more peaceful than that of the Sea Ward. Though it has taverns and shops that suit a variety of taste, the tenure of the area tends toward reserved and polite. Most streets are lined with row houses inhabited by the families of prosperous people of business, investing, and civic service. They are each wealthy enough to employ a servant or two, or they endeavor to appear as such. For the best experience in the North Ward, go there just before dawn, buy a broadsheet, and settle in a cafe with a view of the street. The North Ward's colors are green and orange, and its mascot is the gentle white dove depicted in flight. Many North Ward homes have dove cotes on their roofs, and the great flocks of the birds that circle over the city at dawn and dusk are a delight to behold. The Castle Ward is the heart and mind of Waterdeep, if not its soul. It houses the city's military forces, courts, government, and the market. The largest market square of any city in the north, it encompasses the city navy's docks in the Great Harbor and all of Mount Waterdeep. And it is home to 6 walking statues, numerous temples, and many other landmarks. Castle Waterdeep stands above the city on a great bluff that extends out from the mountain, its towers soaring hundreds of feet into the sky. It surprises many to learn that this isn't where Waterdeep's rulers reside, nor from where the city is governed. The castle was and is a redoubt of last defense should the city be attacked. But for well over a century, the ruler of Waterdeep has occupied the Palace of Waterdeep, also known as Paragon's Palace, and still called that by elderly and long-lived citizens, including many elves. Though not quite as large as the castle, the palace is far more comfortable and lavishly decorated, with many halls used by government officials, guild masters, and nobles for meetings and court proceedings. If you have reason to be invited, not compelled, I should hope, to meet with the masked lords or the open lord of Waterdeep, it will likely take place in the audience chamber of the palace. There you can witness the ancient and humble throne that Agarian first sat upon so long ago. Many other buildings in the ward are given over to the city business, including several courts for magisters and the barracks of the city guard. So many of the ward's structures are offices and meeting halls for business owners, solicitors, publishers, and the like, that the Castle Ward has the smallest resident population of all the wards. The Castle Ward's colors are blue and purple, and its mascot is a griffin, typically depicted in gold. Those borrow colors from the city's flag and reference the Griffin Cavalry. Of course, champions for the ward often come from among the ranks of the Guard, the Navy, or the Cavalry, although some competitors often have the advantage in races and competitions. Their crowds of rabidly cheering fans are naturally much smaller than those of other wards. Trades Ward. Shopping, shopping, shopping galore. Eating, 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 or drinking, 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 or lavish accommodations, or fine art, or legendary parties. The market in the Castle Ward is the largest market square in the city, but the Trades Ward is like a market town in itself and is easily thrice the market size. This ward bustles day and night with activity both on the street and on balcony walkways that run the length of blocks and are sometimes layered 5 stories high. Shop signs appear to leap out from the buildings, whose sides are plastered with advertisements, all vying for the attention of the eye. Glove shops, shoe shops, jewelry stores, perfumeries, flower shops, cake shops, taverns, cafes, tea shops, inns, row houses, boarding schools, offices, dance academies, grocers, potting stores, armor vendors. As long as it's not illegal, you can find it in the Trades Ward. But if you are looking for something illegal, the Trades Ward is likely the place to get that too. Do not do so too loudly, though. The City Watch has a heavy presence in this ward, in the form of both open patrols and officers working out of uniform. As befits a place of so much business, many guilds have their halls in this ward. Of particular note is the House of Light, the Hall of the Guild of Chandlers and Lamplighters. Outside the building, a wagon-sized mound of wax with hundreds of wicks is kept lit day and night while being continually built up with adhered candles. Magic users should be wary in the Court of the White Bull. Long ago, this plaza was a grazing area for livestock. The Trades Ward uses green and purple as its colors, and its mascot is the Mimic. This tradition supposedly arose because when mascots were first chosen, the Trades Ward took a chest of gold as its own, and was roundly mocked by citizens of other wards for not picking a creature. Now every 4 years, the ward reveals a new object for its mascot, declaring it to be the Mimic. The nature of the object is subject to much speculation and rumor until its unveiling. For months afterward, the object becomes a source of practical jokes in Waterdeep. Rock gnomes and wizards cause illusionary mouths to lunge from real versions of the object. Artisans craft beautiful fakes out of cake or paper that are easily crushed when assumed to be real, and so on. Southern Ward. It is called the Southern Ward, not the South Ward. Waterdavians are peculiar about this, and if you insist on referring to this as a South Ward, expect to be corrected or thought a fool. The name derives not merely from its southerly location in the city, but from the Southerners who settled in this district as the city grew. Today, the ward still hosts most of the traveling merchants who visit the city, and is made up of many enclaves, blocks, and streets primarily occupied by citizens who trace their ancestry to other realms. One can indulge in the finest halfling food here, enjoy the best singers of Kalashite music, and examine the most stunning works of dwarven crafting. But the first challenge is finding where these treats are housed. The Southern Ward has long been a district of laborers catering to travelers, so its folk have adopted the architectural custom of building homes and businesses above stables or around inn yards near to where wagon trains are housed. Residents of the Southern Ward take pride in their legacy as overland travelers and hard-working folk, so it be no surprise that the ward's mascot is the mule. On their competition flags, a pugnacious mule in rampant pose stands on a field of red and white, colors said to represent the blood and tears the people of the Southern Ward have shed during their labors. The Dock Ward was long considered the most dangerous district in the city, but the Field Ward has since taken that title. I don't doubt the residents of the Dock Ward are glad of it, for in some respects this area has never truly deserved its bad reputation. Yes, aside from the Field Ward, this is the area where most of Waterdeep's poor reside. Yes, it is home to some of the least literate people in the city. Yes, most of its taverns are inhabited by habitual drinkers, and far too many inns charge by the hour. But all must concede this. The residents of the Dock Ward often work the hardest while living under the harshest conditions. Warehouses, poorhouses, and tenements dominate much of the area. Streets are steep throughout, and few have space alongside for pedestrians. Wandering through the ward can be a bewildering journey without a guide. Except in the immediate vicinity of the piers, shop signs and advertising of any kind are rare, and warehouses and other businesses often have no sign at all. You either know where you're going and have reason to be there, or you are lost and a likely mark for pickpockets or worse. Street lamps don't fare well in the Dock Ward. Their candles, oils, and glass too regularly stolen or smashed. The Guild of Chandlers and Lamplighters makes a half-hearted attempt to repair the street lamps at the start of each season, but for most of the year locals are forced to carry their own light while traveling these streets at night. The colors of the Dock Ward are burgundy and orange, and its mascot is a swordfish that has always been depicted as green for reasons lost to time. The folk of the Dock Ward take competition seriously, and they frequently draft their champions from the rough and tumble sailors who come to the city. Some say they draft pirates, but that is pure slander. Frequent complaints arise that these women and men are more citizens of the sea than of the Dock Ward itself, but if they register with the Magister and pay taxes, they are as welcome to compete as any long-term resident of Waterdeep. The City of the Dead is such a fascinating place, filled with so much history and so many stories. The City of the Dead is no drab cemetery. It is a great park of grassy hills, tended flower beds, artfully placed clusters of trees and bushes, Beautiful sculptures, astounding architecture, and gravel paths that wend intriguingly through it all. Long ago, Ordodavians largely abandoned the practice of burying their dead, instead entombing them in mausoleums. For centuries, the major mausoleums here have been connected to an extra-dimensional space where the dead are taken, mourned, and interred. Outside the city proper. There's more to the city of Waterdeep than just the wards within its walls. If you have need to visit the environs of the city, here's what you'll need to know. The Field Ward. This district was once a caravan yard between Waterdeep's two northernmost walls, kept free of settlement to serve as a killing field in times of war. As refugees from various calamities settled there, after not being allowed into the city's wealthy northern neighborhoods, the area has grown up into a lawless town of its own. Though not an official ward of the city, the Field Ward is commonly referred to as one. The Watch doesn't patrol this area, however, and many crimes go uninvestigated. The City Guard oversees the Field Ward from the walls around it, but its members get involved only when folk moving into or out of the city are threatened. The area is a muddy mess populated by the poorest people and those who take advantage of those folks' desperation. It has no sewer system and isn't served by the Dung Sweepers Guild, a fact that will be quite evident to your nose if you venture here. I don't recommend that you spend any more time here than it takes to pass through from one gate to the next. The Guild of Butchers operates several slaughterhouses, smokehouses, and leather-making facilities in the area. Noisome operations that have been pushed out of the city proper. A word to the wise, being friendly with a burly fellow who is good with a knife is one of the best defenses in the Field Ward. Undercliff. This area of rolling grassland and small wooded areas east of the city is a rural community focused on farming and animal husbandry, and which caters to travelers. It is also the site of a large and well-protected training camp for the city guard and a prison farm run by the city watch called Amends Farm, where those convicted of minor offenses work off their debt to the city. Many gnomes and halflings live in this region, and most buildings are built to reflect their stature. Undermountain. Tales of this legendary dungeon below Waterdeep are told well by many in the city, but I'll provide you with the basic truths here. Beneath the plateau of Waterdeep lies the largest and deepest dungeon in the world. It sprawls out under the city, said to plunge as many as 20 levels deep. The Malarkin dwarves first excavated the tunnels that would become Undermountain, and the Drow are said to have dug their own tunnels up from below. All were claimed, altered, and expanded by the mad wizard Halaster and his apprentices, who are believed to dwell in the dungeons to this day. What drove them deep into the earth remains a mystery, but Undermountain's allure is a siren song that still draws many. If you want to see adventurers descend into the depths, or perhaps glimpse some returning with wondrous treasures, visit the yawning portal in the Castle Ward. You'll find no city on the Sword Coast, or in all of the north half, as civilized as Waterdeep. It's not just the law of the land that makes this so, but also the comforts that life here provides. In most other towns and cities, you'll start with an early morning stumble on the stairs as you carry your night soil down to deposit it outside. But in Waterdeep, many buildings are connected directly to the sewers. Public facilities for those out and about can be found all around the market and the Field of Triumph and near the largest city squares. In places without ready access to sewers or public outhouses, members of the Dung Sweepers Guild make multiple rounds each day, collecting urine and excrement separately for use in industry and agriculture respectively. Take comfort that in Waterdeep you'll always have a pot to piss in. Also notice how clean the streets are kept. The upkeep is due in large part to the hard work of the Dung Sweepers Guild. Dung sweepers can be seen working their brooms and carts at every hour of the day, and for a few hours after dark, all over the city, removing not just animal dung but other refuse. This service is free to all, paid for by taxes rendered to the city, although an egregious amount of trash left for pickup does result in a separate bill from the guild. Another amenity soon appreciated by visitors is Waterdeep's water system. With public fountains and wells all about the city, clean water is plentiful. Many buildings have pumps of their own to draw water from the local supply, and some even possess taps and pour out water with the twist of a knob. This convenience is made possible by the inventiveness of the Gondar the industry of the Cellars and Plumbers Guild, and the magic that Waterdeep inherited from the Illifanari elves. Waterdeep is also a city of light. Continual flame spells illuminate many signs and street lamps in the wealthier parts of the city. Elsewhere, the Guild of Chandlers and Lamplighters keeps the streets lit, excepting the Field Ward in the most dangerous areas of Dockward. Not only that, but hundreds of drift globes bob about the city of the dead at night, departing to float over the rest of the city each morning. Such is not typical behavior for different drift globes, I assure you. Lastly, no city in the world is as literate as Waterdeep. Agma's priests from the Fount of Knowledge offer free instruction and reading to all who desire it, and the city has over 30 publishers of broadsheets in addition to chapbook printers and book publishers. Large paper advertisements are plastered on the alley walls, and smaller ones are passed out by those hired by businesses to trumpet their services. Printed menus can be found posted in the windows of most eateries and are handed out to those who dine within. Admittedly, you'll see less reading material in the dock ward and the field ward, but this fact is notable only because of its preponderance elsewhere. Alright, well, this is the end of the video. I hope it was informative and somewhat entertaining, and I hope it gave you a good idea of what to expect in Waterdeep and the different rules and the places that you can visit. And depending, like I said, upon whether your character is new here, or if your character is new here, you probably didn't watch this video, so I don't know who I'm talking to right now. But if you did watch this video, your character has probably been here for at least a little while, or grew up here, and now you know more about it. So, well, the party is going to start in the Yawning Portal, and we're going to assume that you've all met each other and you're all friends now, or at least acquaintances. And you will start out in that tavern, which is pretty cliche, I know, but that's how it starts. Anyways, can't wait to DM you guys, and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll see you at the game. Take care.